Fox 32 has information indicating the FBI has launched an investigation into controversial Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Dane Placco has been following allegations of her misspending and joins us now with an update. Dane.
What happens when a town's leader makes more mistakes than achievements? Today, we're diving into the controversies surrounding Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard. From financial mismanagement to accusations of public corruption, Henyard's leadership has been nothing short of chaotic. Has she truly led Dalton to ruin? Stick around as we break down 18 of her biggest blunders that suggest she might just be the worst mayor ever.
South suburban politician Tiffany Henyard appears to have lost control of both governments she runs. Now she's teasing a big announcement that she claims will result in some of her opponents being arrested and charged.
Number 18, controversy in Dalton. In March 2024, a major controversy emerged surrounding Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard with allegations that she had misused taxpayer funds for personal expenses, including lavish trips and a $1 million police detail. In response, the Dalton Village Board unanimously voted to investigate her spending, calling for an audit of the village's financial records and extending an invitation to the FBI to conduct its own inquiry. Henyard, however, vetoed the resolution, dismissing it as a personal attack fueled by biased narratives. During a heated village board meeting, Henyard defended herself, stating, "Our village, our community, myself, we are under attack." It's a shame that people can come to meetings and just tell one side of the stories and not get the entire side of both stories. She also accused the village board of being a boys' club, resistant to female leadership, and vowed to fight what she described as a smear campaign against her. Despite Henyard's veto, the board members pledged to override it and press forward with the investigation. At the same meeting, Henyard revealed a $2 million deficit in the village budget, citing overdue payments of over $427,000 for street paving and $400,000 for tree trimming services. Village board members contested her figures, suggesting that the actual deficit might be even higher. Residents voiced their discontent with Henyard's leadership, with Dalton resident Vivian Allen calling for the mayor's resignation, saying, "You lied to us as residents. You do not stand for me, and I want you to step down as mayor today and save our village from this deficit you have caused." Former trustee Edward Steve also criticized Henyard for blaming others instead of taking responsibility for the financial turmoil. Number 17, mismanaging Dalton's finances. One of the most glaring failures under Henyard's leadership is Dalton's financial collapse. Once in a healthy financial position, the village is now reportedly facing a $5 million deficit. What was once a budget surplus has been wiped out due to overspending and poor management decisions. Village officials have accused Henyard of using funds irresponsibly, leaving Dalton unable to cover its basic needs, including judgments owed from lawsuits. Number 16, unpaid judgments and lawsuits. One of the most publicized issues surrounding Henyard's administration is the $33.5 million lawsuit resulting from a 2016 police chase that ended in tragedy. 2 men were either killed or severely injured in the incident, and their families sued the village of Dalton. In 2022, a Cook County jury awarded these families a huge financial settlement, which the village was ordered to pay. However, under Henyard's leadership, the village hasn't made any meaningful attempts to pay off this enormous debt. This unpaid judgment is not just a legal issue, it's a reflection of Henyard's overall governance failures. The lawsuit grows larger every year as interest accumulates, and it threatens to push Dalton further into financial ruin. The decision not to pay or appeal the judgment also puts Dalton at risk of additional legal penalties, making the financial strain even worse. Number 15, personal security scandal.
The former police chief in South suburban Dalton is speaking out for the first time to just one station about Mayor Tiffany Henyard's controversial police security detail and how it impacted his ability to fight crime.
A Fox 32 investigation in 2023 uncovered that Henyard's personal security detail was not only excessive, but also siphoned police officers away from their primary duties of maintaining public safety. Collins described how officers were overworked, with some clocking hundreds of hours in overtime, which further strained the village's budget. This diverted manpower left Dolton's streets understaffed in a town that already grapples with significant challenges like gang violence and drugs. The former chief emphasized that these officers were needed on the ground, yet they were instead used to chauffeur the mayor to her engagements, often acting as personal valets for errands and out-of-town trips. Initially, the security detail was justified in 2021 following a police-involved shooting that sparked protests and threats against Henyard. But Collins noted that as the protests waned, the detail continued to grow in both size and scope. It evolved into a permanent fixture, with officers routinely accompanying Henyard on trips far beyond Dolton's borders, incurring thousands in travel expenses. Collins questioned the necessity of this security while Henyard was out of town, raising concerns about who posed such a threat that warranted these protective measures in distant locations. The strain on the police force became increasingly evident when just recently a mass shooting occurred on Sibley Boulevard, leaving 4 injured. Collins asserted that with officers tied up in Henyard's security detail, visibility on the streets dwindled, emboldening criminals who took advantage of the lack of police presence. Efforts to address these issues directly with village officials, including Dolton Village Administrator Keith Freeman, were met with resistance. Collins recounted being repeatedly rebuffed, his warnings about the misuse of police resources ignored in favor of maintaining the status quo as dictated by Henyard. Number 14, ignoring public information requests. Transparency is essential in any government, but under Henyard's administration, getting information has been anything but easy. She has been accused of violating state law by ignoring public information requests that are meant to keep the government accountable. Dolton residents and watchdog organizations have been left in the dark about the village's financial health, operations, and other key areas of governance. This lack of transparency is dangerous, as it creates an environment where corruption and mismanagement can thrive unchecked. When residents can't get answers, trust in local government erodes. Henyard's refusal to comply with basic legal obligations is just another sign of her disregard for Dolton's citizens. Number 13, excessive credit card charges.
Close aide to Mayor Tiffany Henyard is cooperating with her opponents, and the mayor has now been stripped of at least some power in the form of access to village money.
Because you throw a lot of things up here that don't be true.
A particularly troubling allegation against Henyard is her excessive use of a village credit card, with some reports suggesting that she racks up charges of around $50,000 per month. Despite these enormous expenses, there has been little explanation or accountability regarding what exactly she's spending this money on. When a public official is entrusted with taxpayer money, they are expected to be responsible and transparent. However, Henyard's lavish spending habits suggest the opposite. Reports have indicated that some of this money has been used for personal perks, such as hair and makeup, which only adds fuel to the growing discontent among Dolton residents. Number 12, funneling taxpayer money to her charity. Henyard has also faced allegations of funneling taxpayer money into her private foundation. This charity, which carries her name, was supposedly created to support cancer survivors, a noble cause. However, reports have surfaced that the charity may not be serving its intended purpose. Instead, some claim that Henyard has used it as a way to funnel money into her own projects. This raises serious ethical questions. If true, Henyard's actions would represent a gross misuse of public funds. Rather than helping those in need, she's allegedly diverting money into projects that benefit her personal brand. Number 11, misuse of public funds for personal promotions. In addition to her questionable charity dealings, Henyard has been accused of using public funds to promote herself. According to reports, she has spent large sums on personal branding efforts, such as billboards and advertising, that prominently feature her image. This kind of spending, especially when the village is facing financial crisis, seems wildly inappropriate. By prioritizing her own image over the well-being of her constituents, Henyard shows where her true focus lies. Dolton residents have every right to be angry when their taxpayer money is being used for vanity projects rather than essential services. Number 10, failed ice rinks and biking event. One of the more curious incidents under Henyard's leadership involves two community projects that never came to fruition. Taxpayer money was spent on promoting and planning two ice rinks and a community bike ride in Springfield, but these events were ultimately never held. Despite this, the funds allocated for these projects were spent, leaving residents with nothing to show for it. These failed projects are emblematic of Henyard's broader mismanagement style. She seems more interested in making grand promises than actually following through on them, leaving the community disappointed and the village coffers depleted. Before moving ahead, let's take a look at some honorable mentions. Township funds misuse. In addition to her role as mayor, Henyard serves as supervisor of Thornton Township. Critics have accused her of commingling funds between the village and township, further complicating Dolton's financial woes. FBI investigation. The FBI has reportedly been looking into Henyard's actions, particularly concerning her management in Thornton Township. While no charges have been filed yet, the investigation adds another layer of concern to her already questionable leadership. Coming back to the topic, number 9, water debt to Chicago. Under Henyard's leadership, Dolton has failed to pay its water bill to the city of Chicago since at least 2018. This is a huge problem, as it threatens Dolton's ability to secure basic services for its residents. Without a functional relationship with neighboring cities, Dolton risks losing access to critical infrastructure. This unpaid debt is just another example of how Henyard's administration has failed to prioritize the needs of Dolton citizens. Rather than ensuring that basic bills are paid, her focus seems to be elsewhere, leaving the village to suffer the consequences. Number 8, failed recall attempt. Despite the many scandals that have plagued her administration, Henyard narrowly avoided being recalled from office. A court ruling prevented her removal, but the effort alone speaks volumes about how the community feels about her leadership. Many residents have clearly had enough of her mismanagement and corruption. While she may have survived this attempt, the damage to her reputation has already been done. Even those who supported her in the past are now questioning whether she's fit to lead. Number 7, Las Vegas. The trip has not only called into question the mayor's penchant for lavish travel on the taxpayer's dime, but has also been marred by troubling allegations of retaliation against two subordinates who reported a possible sexual assault by a Dolton trustee during the Las Vegas excursion. Yet, behind Henyard's defiant words, FBI agents were busy serving subpoenas at Dolton Village Hall, demanding employment and disciplinary records for more than a dozen employees. The federal interest was piqued further when Henyard's top aide, Keith Freeman, was indicted for bankruptcy fraud just days earlier. Freeman, who sits conspicuously beside Henyard at public meetings, is accused of concealing his employment from his creditors. A detail hard to miss given the meetings are easily viewable on YouTube. A deep dive by WGN into government credit card records unearthed a staggering $102,987 in travel expenses in the past year alone, with a significant chunk attributed to Henyard. She has a taste for travel, and taxpayers are footing the bill, remarked a Dolton resident who was visibly frustrated. The Vegas trip itself racked up $26,099, largely billed to the residents of Thornton Township's 17 south suburbs. Number 6, harassment scandal. To make matters worse, a civil lawsuit now claims that Henyard's aide was sexually assaulted by Dolton trustee Andrew Holmes during the Las Vegas trip. The former assistant, whose identity remains protected due to the nature of her complaint, recounted a troubling series of events in her filing. She stated that after having dinner with a Dolton trustee, she began to feel disoriented and lightheaded, eventually blacking out. The following morning, she woke up in the trustee's hotel room with no recollection of how she got there, experiencing physical discomfort. Upon returning to Dolton, she was informed by Officer Byron Miles, who was also part of Henyard's security detail during the trip, that the trustee had bragged to him about having unprotected sex with her. Miles's account suggested that the encounter may not have been consensual. raising serious concerns about the assistant's ability to provide consent. In a meeting the day after their return, the assistant and Officer Miles confronted Mayor Henyard with the information. The assistant clearly stated that she would never have consented to such an encounter. Officer Miles corroborated her account, revealing that the trustee had contacted him that night in Las Vegas and boasted about the sexual activity, further implying that consent was questionable. According to their complaints, Henyard expressed fear that if this information became public, it would ruin her reputation and undo her work. She assured them that she would handle the situation, asking them to trust her. However, in the days that followed, the assistant was placed on unpaid medical leave, a move she claimed she did not request. Eventually, she was terminated from her position. Officer Miles, who supported the assistant's claims, also faced repercussions. He alleges he was demoted to patrol duty and faced other forms of retaliation for his role as a witness. Both the assistant and Officer Miles are now seeking back pay, front pay, punitive damages, and attorney fees for the retaliation they claim to have endured. In response to these allegations, the Village of Dolton released a statement asserting that they conducted a thorough investigation led by an independent, third-party company composed of former law enforcement officers with no ties to the village. According to the village's statement, Officer Miles denied any knowledge of the allegations during the investigation, and despite multiple attempts to contact the former assistant, she refused to provide a statement or cooperate. The village has dismissed the allegations as baseless, attributing them to disgruntled former employees seeking financial gain at the expense of taxpayers. They have expressed confidence in defending against the claims and intend to pursue all available legal remedies. However, this isn't the only time she has been accused of wrongful termination either. Number 5. Wrongful termination scandal. Dwayne Thrash, a longtime employee of Thornton Township, has been added to the growing list of allegations against Mayor Tiffany Henyard, filing a lawsuit claiming wrongful termination after 20 years of service. According to Thrash, he was fired after refusing to participate in an alleged scheme orchestrated by Henyard and her special assistant, Keith Freeman. The lawsuit alleges that Henyard and Freeman pressured Thrash to fire the attorney for the Thornton Township Trustees of Schools and replace her with Delgado Law Group LLC. In an attempt to sway Thrash, he was offered a $10,000 pay increase if he agreed to make the change. When Thrash refused to comply, he was terminated less than a month later. Thrash is now seeking compensatory damages for lost wages and emotional distress, along with injunctive relief aimed at preventing further unlawful employment practices within Thornton Township. His case adds to the mounting legal troubles facing Henyard's administration, which has been riddled with allegations of corruption, financial mismanagement, and wrongful terminations. Number 4. Hiring controversial people. Just a year after her election, Dolton residents initiated a recall process, primarily due to her controversial decision to hire Lavelle Redmond, a convicted sex offender, for a role that required entering people's homes. Redmond, who at age 16 had kidnapped and essayed 2 young girls, was sentenced to 50 years in prison and was paroled in 2016. Despite the uproar, Henyard defended her decision, arguing that everyone deserves a second chance after serving time. However, the recall referendum, which saw 56% of voters supporting her removal, was later ruled illegal by the Illinois Appellate Court, allowing Henyard to remain in office. In a brazen show of defiance, she turned up at the next board meeting blasting a disco song, dancing on the podium. On Instagram, she posted a picture of herself with the caption, "I am and forever will be Dolton's mayor," proudly proclaiming herself the people's mayor. Number 3, she's abusing her power to fight the law. After mounting allegations of misusing taxpayer money, the Dolton Village Board attempted to investigate Mayor Tiffany Henyard's spending. The board unanimously voted to open a probe and even invited the FBI to conduct its own investigation. However, Henyard vetoed the resolution, arguing that the move was a personal attack against her. During a heated village board meeting, she defended herself by saying the attacks were based on one-sided stories and vowed to continue fighting back against what she perceived as unfair treatment. The community's frustration with her is at an all-time high. Residents like Vivian Allen publicly called for Henyard's resignation, accusing her of failing to represent their interests and causing the financial troubles plaguing the village. Former trustee Edward Steve echoed these sentiments, urging Henyard to take responsibility rather than deflect blame onto others. Amid these criticisms, the FBI was already reportedly probing Henyard's actions, even though the village had yet to formally request their involvement. The agency was investigating complaints from numerous residents, including one from Lawrence Gardner, who claimed Henyard shut down his trucking business after he refused to renew a political contribution to her campaign. Number 2. Chicago area bribery case. The village of Dolton, under Henyard's direction, paid over $200,000 to OKK Construction Company, a company connected to multiple bribery cases for no-bid, no-contract work, replacing roofs and windows for senior homeowners. This connection has raised eyebrows, especially considering the company's president, Alex Nitchoff, has pleaded guilty to bribing a Cook County assessor's official for property tax breaks. Federal subpoenas were issued to Dolton and Thornton Township, seeking detailed records of these transactions and the broader financial dealings of the village and the township. This investigation is part of a larger federal probe into Henyard, who has gained notoriety for her controversial leadership style and alleged misuse of funds. OAKK Construction, run by Alex Nitchoff, is no stranger to controversy. Nitchoff's late father was also implicated in a federal case involving bribery of former Chicago Alderman Carrie Austin, where he provided her with sump pumps and kitchen cabinets in exchange for business favors. The Nitchoffs have a long history in Dolton, with connections to local politics that include substantial donations to former Mayor Riley Rogers and Henyard herself. Number 1. Picnicking on taxpayer dollars. She hosted a picnic titled Friends of Tiffany Henyard, which some viewed as a thinly veiled campaign event. The title of the event closely matches the name of her campaign fund, raising questions among her critics about whether public money was being inappropriately used. Trustees in both Dolton and Thornton Township attempted to prevent public funds from being used for the event. However, food boxes from the township were distributed to attendees, and the event took place at a Dolton skating rink Henyard spearheaded. The rink, which cost the village an estimated $269,000 to build, has been criticized by some trustees, including Dolton trustee Tammy Brown, who noted that it appears to be used infrequently. "It's only open when she's there or she's having an event," Brown said. The skepticism deepened when WGN Investigates uncovered that $17,000 was charged to village credit cards for roller skates from a wholesale supplier. Brown expressed frustration, stating, "I'm thinking that's for the roller skates residents never got a chance to use." Henyard's attorney, Bo Brindley, maintained that the picnic was not a campaign event and that Henyard personally paid for some of the food. Henyard echoed this during a Facebook live stream from the event, telling viewers, "I spent my own money to put on for my citizens. I put my money where my mouth is." Despite these claims, the food giveaway at the event involved Thornton Township workers handing out boxes filled with turkey, yams, greens, and other items. The Greater Chicago Food Depository, which supplies food to the township, has previously warned against using its provisions for political or campaign events. Keith Price, the pantry manager, claimed the food came from township surpluses, but the food depository sent representatives to the township's pantry shortly after to ensure compliance with their guidelines. Jim Conwell, a representative from the food depository, stated, "Our team did not see mixing of food depository products with event products, but reiterated that their food should not be used for political activities." Tiffany Henyard's leadership has left Dolton on the brink of financial disaster. From unpaid legal settlements to reckless personal spending, her tenure as mayor has been filled with scandal after scandal. Will Dolton recover, or is the damage irreversible? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos like this. We will see you in the next video.